Good morning. Welcome to this Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. And this morning we're talking about becoming involved in what we're calling the Sunrise Club, okay? Now, anybody agree sunrise starts the day? And in looking at it, I've been studying for a while all the different techniques throughout the world that are involved in the spiritual aspect of life. And you have to look at the Buddhist, you have to look at the Tibetan, you have to look at the Muslim, you have to look at the Christian. And what's happening in monasteries and temples to create what we call a spiritual path. And pretty much in most organizations, there is a time when the monasteries and the temples and those who are on the spiritual path, where they get up and have silent prayer in the morning. If anybody's familiar with the term circadian rhythms, there's proof that during the day there are different energies available to us as human beings through our body. And that time from 5 o'clock to about 8 o'clock in the morning is a very, very important time for getting the day started. And we sent this out, so if you would you pass it around? Because I want to make sure everybody has a copy. Thank you. Now, the idea is, and what we're doing here is creating what I call a virtual monastery. Everybody there? And all that means is that we, as a group of believers, plan or make a commitment to get together during a period of time in the morning and be in silent prayer. Now, that doesn't mean begging God for something. Everybody got it? Really, prayer means connection directly with Spirit, or the Spirit that animates the universe, or if you want to, going back and plugging into Source, because that's who we are. We are Source in expression, so the idea is once in a while get recharged. And it appears throughout history that the spiritual path has included some time in the morning. Now, Lessons in Truth. Anybody familiar with Lessons in Truth? Lessons in Truth is kind of like the foundation of unity. It was written by Dr. Emily Cady, who was a female physician back in the 1890s. And she wrote this book, Lessons in Truth. And as far as I know, in most what's called New Thought organizations, it is a beginning textbook. So I decided I'm going to go look in here and see what she has to say. So I'd like to share that with you, okay? And what she says on page, if I remember correctly, 11, paragraph 23, every man must take time daily for quiet meditation. So she says, right, and by the way, I will retranslate this, is every person must take time daily for quiet and meditation, okay? In daily meditation lies the secret of power. Now, would you agree that the whole world is looking for power? And power in the physical world is completely different from power in the spiritual world. And let's call it spiritual power. I don't know why the word come to me, but if you play bridge, it trumps everything else. But the idea behind it is that at the spiritual level, there's a power beyond what we experience on the physical level. And we tap into that in times of silence. So she goes on and says, no one can grow in either spiritual knowledge or power without it. Practice the presence of God just as you would practice music. Now, anybody here have a skill? And a lot of you have skills that you learn through spaced repetition over and over and over again. And like anything else, the way you learn a trade, the way you learn a skill, the way you learn anything is spaced repetition over and over and over again so that you create new neuron structures in your brain so that it automatically goes there. Now, if you understand this, our brains are so attuned to the physical world that the neuron structure isn't up to the spiritual energies. In other words, spiritual energies are different. And when you dial your radio, well, we used to dial our radio. But anyway, we dial into a frequency, and that's what we're doing when we go into meditation. We're dialing into spiritual energies and allowing the spiritual energies to recreate us at depths. So meditation and silence or centering prayer is part of a spiritual path. Now, this is a Sunrise Club, and I'm just saying, hey, why don't we get together pretty close, same timing every morning, and experience the group energy. If anybody in here has any kind of electricians or electrical background, you know that if you add batteries together, it increases the power available to the output. So all we're doing is linking up all of the spiritual power within each one of us and creating that energy as a community of oneness. Now, I believe it's happening now anyway. And I've been waiting for a while for a tipping point. Anybody familiar with tipping point? And I told Val this morning we are there. We've been there for a couple of weeks now. But we had to clear out some old stuff. We had to get together and regroup. We had to make the connection back, if you will. And that's happening now. And this is just taking it to the next level. Anybody want to go to the next level? Because there are energies in the universe that we call spiritual energies. Scientists call it subtle energies. And they're subtle because you don't know them. You can't feel them, you can't see them, you can't smell them, you can't touch them. But they are beyond the normal physical understanding of the five senses. Sight, hearing, touch, and smell, etc. And they are other senses that are beyond the physical. As a matter of fact, we are finding out through quantum physics that we affect what we see with our thinking. So if our thinking becomes more spiritualized, would you agree I see more spiritual things in my life? So I start experiencing what's called spontaneous miracles. Okay? That's when things happen, when things sort of dovetail. When somebody calls and something you've been looking for, they give it to you. Or something happens. Anybody had those unusual things? And at the time, they're kind of like, wow, that was lucky. Hello? Everybody take a deep breath, because have you ever noticed some people seem to be more lucky than others? And why is that? Now, I'm not saying we have the answer. I'm just saying maybe, just maybe, it's because we're cultivating our connection with Spirit. And Spirit is pervasive everywhere. By definition, God is omnipresent, which means everywhere present. Is omniscience, which means all knowledge is there with God. And all power is in God. And we're an expression of that. And as we tap into it, we take advantage of those subtle energies, which are being transmitted throughout the universe at all times. However, we haven't been in tune with them. So what we're talking about today is starting a concerted effort, if you will. And it's strictly voluntary. If you want to participate, great. If you don't, that's fine. But the idea of taking 20 to 30 minutes. Now, why do I say 20 to 30 minutes? Because that's what they all do. Okay? Centering prayer says 20 to 30 minutes. I do know over in some temples it's 20 to 30 minutes. Now, do you do more at times? Yes. As a matter of fact, it's suggested that once a month you take a few hours. But that doesn't matter. The 20 or 30 minutes every morning starts building what we call consciousness. It brings awareness, and here it says it brings power. This is a little bit more. You ready? Here it says, God is just as you would practice music. No one would ever dream of becoming master. Daily meditation alone with God focuses divine presence within you. So daily presence upon the meditation of God, presence of God, brings that presence to within you. Actually, I'd like to say it brings your awareness of something that's already there, okay, which is a big step, because that's what we're looking for. Anybody agree? We'd like life to work, and we'd like to be open to what's going on around us. And it's also learning to let the outside world be the outside. Jesus said, I am of the world, but not in the world, or I am in the world, but not of the world, okay? And I think that would be a good attitude right now with the political situation, yes? Because there's all kinds of stories out there, okay? And it doesn't matter which side you're on. We talked about that last week. No matter where you are outside of being in spirit, you're in conflict, and conflict creates more conflict. So in a true spiritual sense, I and the Father are one is the key to that whole thing, and remembering that thou will keep in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. So we're right back to that idea that all there is God. And all this other stuff is stories that we make up out of the ego. So, it's really fascinating to me that we have gotten so far away from the keys to, I don't want to use the word success, but I want to use the word awareness. Because success is such a contradictory thing. And again, I don't know why I'm going back here, but years ago, that's what I used to do. I used to stand on stages and talk about, you can control your life, you can do this, you can do that, and you can be successful. And what I'm realizing now is that it's the presence of God that brings success in our life, because that's the happiness that exists. Going back to our mission statement, it says empowering transformation. Everybody get that phrase, empowering transformation. And what would it be like to understand and live through transformation? It would be new life, it would be happiness, there would be joy, and all the gifts of the Spirit. This is the stuff that's in the Bible that Jesus spoke that's misunderstood today. And it's really interesting that we are now opening a new path back to God by simply sitting in quiet 20 minutes a morning. Okay, now what else is required? Well, really, you might want to take a look at how you live your life. And is your diet okay? And are you getting a certain amount of exercise? Hate to bring that up, but that's taking care of personal self. There's also the idea of living a sacred life, if you will, and telling the truth. Anybody remember that? And living out of integrity. So that's all balanced, but the main thing that holds that together is 20 to 30 minutes in prayer every morning. And reading. Now we add on this, it adds do your daily word. Now, the daily word is a spiritual message for every day. And is that necessary? Now you can go find, you can use a Course in Miracles, you can use a Bible verse, you can read chapters in the Bible. You might even figure out the history of the Bible and do some of that work. Because there's all kinds of things to learn. It's like first time Val reminded me of the history of the Christian church and what happened. It's amazing how some of the theologies have become convoluted from the original language, but you don't know that unless you've studied it. So it's a very, very interesting thing to take that sacred time in the morning and then take another 10 or 15 minutes reading something of a spiritual nature. Now, the only way to find out if it works is to try it. Okay? It's like I've had people, I had a young man with us Friday night, and he was saying, how do we know this is true? He was saying, I'm skeptical. And I said, okay, that's fine. The only way you know, as a matter of fact, he was asking, is there any scientific proof on this? And it was kind of funny. I kind of looked at him, and we were dealing with it. And it was really fascinating to me that the secular mind, the mind that's been trained, has to prove everything. And in this world, it's ethereal. It is beyond the understanding of the physical senses. And the only way to get there is to get there. And it requires daily process. How long does it take? I don't know to finish I did. Some of us have been at it for years, yes? And it slowly changes. And we are so attuned to wanting everything right now. We want it, what is it? We want instant tea, instant coffee, instant belief in everything. And that's really not the way the spiritual path works. There are people that have had breakthroughs, and there are people that have found it on many different paths. But the idea is to do a daily process every day, day after day, and continue that process. Now, I've been asked for how long? Anybody have an answer?
Till I'm long ago.
For the rest of your life. Yes. It's a spiritual path. And the truth is, it gets better and better and better. And the only way you know it gets better and better is to keep doing. So I encourage you, and you don't need any commitment. You don't need to write me anything. All you need to do is say, yes, I commit to being part of the program. And we're going to call it the Sunrise Club, okay? Unless somebody has a better name. No?
No, it's a great thing.
Great name. Because if you stop and think about it, sunrise begins the day. And sunrise is a metaphor for a new change in life into spiritual life. So I want to thank you for participating. I want to thank you for being part of that.
She does it already.
Say it again.
She does it already.
Yeah. Well, we have. Tommy's the guy that, we talked about it a few months ago, and he shared with me that's what he's doing. So I had to bring him into it. But there are groups of us here doing it already, but it's kind of like, let's formalize it. Okay? Now, I am going to pull my notes out because I haven't checked on my notes. Oh, they're in the back. Thank you. And what I really wanted to end with, it's amazing coincidence. Everybody remember coincidence? It's funny. It's really funny. Because I looked at the Daily Word yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it says in the end, I keep my focus on positive energies. Okay, now what are the positive energies in the world? Spirit, God, source, the source of all that is. You want to call him Jehovah, Allah, doesn't matter. See, it's a name for divinity. So I keep my focus on positive energies, bringing them into greater expression in my life. And how do I do that? I do it every day, day after day, day after day, as I retrain the pattern in my brain. I rejoice in, you ready? Unlimited possibilities. So the question becomes, what is the possibility of a human being? What are each of you capable of doing? And what is our possibility? What is the potential? And the word potential means the ability to do something beyond where I am. And so what is our potential here as a group? And my literature says that a single person can change the world. So we've got a group here right now, 24, 25. And if we are connecting, doing nothing more than connecting in the morning with divinity that is everywhere present, do you understand the power that we're bringing into the universe? So I love you, and that's who you are, and that's what we're capable of. Because our potential is unlimited. Blessings.